morning, the phone rang. We said, sure. At that time, it was thought the filibuster would end at noon and an hour to decompress and so forth and be here at 1 o'clock. And then we got word that, hey, it may go on past noon. And can the appearance time float? We said, sure. We'll be glad to float with you. And then Dingy Harry did the Grim Reaper act and shut this thing down at 12 noon after 21 hours. And at that point, it became, I guess, etched in stone that Senator Cruz will be here, barring something. I mean, this is such a fluid situation. Barring something unexpected, he will be here at 1 o'clock. Boy, folks, if this doesn't embody everything that a number of us have been trying to say and inform everybody about the Washington establishment, the Republican establishment, it's all in these 21 hours, even the hours leading up to it. The criticisms of Ted Cruz from his own party, the attempt to ruin him and mock him in his own party and from the so-called conservative media. And then, of all places, Fox News trashing all over this. And Fox News essentially blaming me and other conservative media for making Ted Cruz what he is. Brit Hume, of all people, essentially said that Ted Cruz is who he is because he's being pressured by people like me. And left to his own devices, Cruz might not be doing this, is the implication. Didn't actually say that. I was literally stunned watching this. The fact that even after 21 hours, even at the beginning of it, they cannot at least admit that this is who the man is. He doesn't need any advisors here. He doesn't need any pressure. The man is not a coward. Ted Cruz isn't afraid of anybody. The real question is, what is the Republican establishment afraid of? What are some of these conservative media types at Fox News afraid of? What is the Washington establishment on the Republican side afraid of? Government shutdown, losing elections? What do you guys think you've been doing? Did you look at how many Republicans didn't show up to vote for Mitt Romney in 2008? Do you realize that if the Republican base had turned out, Obama would have been defeated? Why didn't it happen? When does fighting for freedom backfire? Explain that to me, because that's what this is. And this is what I guess some of these establishment types in Washington, regardless of party, I don't think they really understand. I think there is such a divide in this country. It is so wide that some people in politics, it's their business to understand these things, don't even know what really is going on. I just heard Michael Barone say, well, this is nothing but theater. All Ted Cruz has done is engage in something that's impossible. It's not theater. This is real. This is about freedom. I know to a lot of people that sounds corny. Freedom, come on. Russia's freedom isn't threatened. Oh, but it is. In ever so small incremental losses, it is. It's what Obamacare is all about. It's precisely what Obamacare is all about. The loss of individual freedom, the loss of free markets. Ted Cruz is fighting for freedom in the greatest tradition of American freedom fighters. And how did so many Republicans manage to miss that fundamental American lesson? Mark Stein on this program yesterday made a good point, if I'm going to paraphrase it. But he essentially said that our system doesn't need the smartest, the best elected representatives because the people can take care of it with popular uprisings. The people. This is a country that is a representative republic. The people get what they want here. Popular uprisings. That what Ted Cruz is attempting to do is marshal the support of the American people. It's in the greatest traditions of the American founding and the entire existence of the country. He's simply trying to marshal and motivate the public that already opposes Obamacare in such a way as to send a message to Washington that this is not what's wanted, because Washington isn't listening. How did Republicans manage to miss this? I've been asking for, I don't know how long. You look at the polling data on Obamacare and any other issue, but we'll stick with Obamacare. The numbers are striking. The number of people, the percentage of Americans that actually support this, the last poll I saw last week, is 12 to 26%, depending on the poll. 12 to 26%, and the Republican Party wants to align with that segment of the population. Well over 50% of the American people don't want this. And the Republicans say, well, we can't do anything about it. The law is the law. It's the law of the land. And, well, so was slavery one time, the law of the land. These arguments just are made by people that do not want to roll up their sleeves or have too much invested in Washington continuing to function as it does. Ted Cruz was doing exactly what he was elected to do. Ted Cruz was elected in Texas to do exactly what he did in this filibuster. And by the way, what he has been doing since he arrived. He's one Republican who is doing exactly what he was elected to do. And contrary to people who claim that he's motivated by fear of talk radio, go back and look at Ted Cruz's campaign in Texas, and you'll see that he's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. He's doing exactly what he was elected to do. He's fighting for free markets. He's fighting for individual choice. He's fighting against statists and statism. He's fighting for the American people, even those who don't know that he's fighting for them. Ted Cruz, in his 21-hour speech filibuster, I don't even want to call this a filibuster. If he would have been making a losing speech and a losing cause like abortion, he would have been feted as a great American, as was that woman in Texas, Wendy Davis, who was, fighting for a losing cause, who never had any support whatsoever, except she was a darling, because she was on the right side of this massive political divide. This political divide is so wide that the things you and I believe and stand for and want don't even compute, not even understandable inside the Beltway, or to the extent that they are understand. They're if anybody is afraid, folks, it's the Washington establishment. I think that's where the real fear is, and you can see it in the way they react to Cruz. If he was such a bumbling idiot, they wouldn't want this to stop. They'd want him to keep going and continue to make a fool of himself. They'd want him to keep speaking and keep losing everything for the Tea Party. If they thought Ted Cruz was this giant joke and mistake and disaster, Dingy Harry wouldn't have walked in there and shut this down. Ted Cruz wants a vote on this thing on Friday, not Saturday. On Saturday, nobody's going to be paying attention or watching, trying to find Johnny Manziel and Texas A&M if they're playing, or whoever else playing college football. Ted Cruz, meanwhile, is fighting for the soul of his party. Ted Cruz is fighting for the principle of limited government, which is a principle that animates all of us. There's no penalty for this. There's no penalty in fighting for freedom. I don't know how that backfires. Russia just goes to show you don't understand how Washington works. Yes, I do, and that's another thing that this is about. Washington isn't working. What in the world coming out of Washington is working? It isn't working. Who cares about highfalutin Senate rules as a reason why Cruz should stop? I don't think anything takes a backseat to the quest for freedom. I don't care how corny that sounds. Ted Cruz is fighting for all those Republicans and Reagan Democrats who stayed home on Election Day 2012. The American people don't want Obamacare. I don't care what poll you cite. They do not want it. Who can't make that connection? The Americans want somebody to help them push back on this. If you don't fight, you can't possibly win. You know what the Republican strategy is? Well, let's let this thing get implemented and let it fall apart. It can't work. I agree. It can't work. It's a disaster, but that doesn't mean it's going to be fixed. When it doesn't work, the Washington way is another health care program to fix what's wrong with this one. And the cycle repeats, and you keep getting bigger government after bigger government. The Kaiser poll, I'm really not kidding. I've got a healthcare stack here. I could do 21 hours today. Just the healthcare news that I've accumulated in the days I've been gone. The disasters awaiting everybody just in terms of cost. Well, I know I could do 21 hours any day, but I'm talking about with one subject. You know, nobody cared about Congress's precious rules when Obamacare was passed via reconciliation. What about that? Everybody's so wringing their hands over Ted Cruz ignoring proper procedure and the rules of the Senate and so forth. Well, hell's bells, folks. We've got Obamacare as an albatross around our necks because the rules of the Congress were subverted and corrupted. Should have never been allowed to pass under reconciliation. Even I think Robert Byrd said that it shouldn't be passed under reconciliation. He was the father of it. We live in a time when a 25-year-old is considered a child. We live in a time where there's an entire industry getting filthy rich, trying to persuade as many Americans as possible to never take a risk on anything. We are becoming a nation of wusses, would-be wusses. We have a bunch of leftists trying to take the risk out of anything. Don't do anything that would upset you or anybody else. Do not take the risk. You might get hurt. We're living in a time where the president has 19 fake Twitter followers. We're living in a time where his wife, the first lady, has 2 million fake Twitter followers. Well, that's what the story I've got here says. Or is this from? It's it's David Martusco in Washington. I don't know the source. It didn't print. But Obama, political king of the fake Twitter followers, more than 19.5 million online fans who don't really exist. Quite symbolic of Obama himself and the administration. It isn't what everybody thinks it is, nor is he. 19.5 million fake followers. The Washington establishment exists to make things look as though they are not. Something comes along outside the formula, outside the box, like Ted Cruz. Uh-oh, we got a problem. How do we analyze this? This doesn't fit. So we live in a time when a 25-year-old is considered a child, and when raising the debt ceiling is not debt. The president said that when raising the debt ceiling is not incurring more debt. We live at a time when self-defense is said to be a danger to others. And amazingly, when fighting for freedom is said to be detrimental to the party of limited government. I still have trouble getting my arms around that, because that's all this is. A man doing what he was elected to do, fighting for limited government, fighting for individual freedom and liberty, rolling back the biggest assault on individual freedom in our lifetimes outside the Soviet Union and foreign enemies. And doing that, fighting for freedom, is said to be detrimental to the Republican Party, which used to be known as the party of limited government. Anyway, Cruz won't have any of it. He's not talked out of it. He's not talked down from it. He's not intimidated, yet he's said to be scared of talk radio. A lot of Americans have been looking for a leader. I wonder how many people think they might have found one. Just asking. Be right back.